All right, we're live. So, welcome to another Run Wild with Us. Ask Us Anything. I am Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild and Rise Presses. And I am here with you on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, along with typically a couple of our amazing acquisition editors to basically answer any old questions that you might have. You can ask us anything. Honestly, you can ask us anything around. Most people ask around creative writing, the business of publishing. They may ask us about any kind of trends that we see. Um, if we have anything, any favorites, that kind of stuff. So, and yay, I get to be here with Amy. Amy is phenomenal, guys.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you doing?
I am hanging in there. It has been so busy lately. Yeah, start of school is always crazy, and then finishing up all of the Pocket Full of Teeth, kind of looking over final drafts, and yeah, just very exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. For those of you who may not know, we are going to be publishing a novel of Amy's. I call it like dark fantasy suspense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Pocket Full of Teeth. I'm really super excited about it. I mean, I think you guys are absolutely going to adore it. So we are right now working on cover formatting and getting it out there. So I'm going to guess it's probably going to come out like end of 2024, beginning of 2025. We're just figuring that out now. So yeah,
So
definitely.
excited.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey Peter, hey Ben, how are you gentlemen doing?
I'm good. Still a little tired, but getting back to the Eastern time zone.
Oh, that's right. Where did you go again?
Colorado, Breckenridge, and Colorado Springs.
Nice. How was it?
Oh, fantastic. Beautiful weather, beautiful hiking. It's really cool.
Very, very cool.
But too short.
And Ben, how are you doing, young man?
Doing well, thank you. I was right down the road from Peter. About 500 miles.
I was going to say, really? Yeah, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
It's the West. 500 miles is nothing.
That's awesome. So what's going on in your space?
I've got Wretched coming along. I broke the halfway point, so I'm celebrating.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be. Well, I won't give a time frame because I'll miss it, but it'll wrap up, and then the Fallout novel is next, and the NFG is still waiting, but he's doing polishing as we go. So because we've been through it once, it's just a matter of getting rid of what we don't need, rearranging some of what we do, and then the short stories. It's good. It feels good to be waiting on the author instead of having the authors wait on me.
Nice. Jessica Val says, "Congrats on the halfway point." I agree, Jessica. Woo-hoo! Margaret Buchanan says, "Hey guys." Rod says, "Hey guys." Hi, Margaret. Hey, Rod. For those of you who may not be familiar, if you have any questions or comments or what have you, just go ahead and pop it into the comment section of whatever venue that you are watching this, even if you're not watching it while we're live, because we do go back throughout the week and we check and we'll read, the questions or comments and then address them if appropriate in the subsequent week. So awesome to see you guys. Oh, I almost forgot. So we want to congratulate Caroline, because last week Caroline asked questions during the segment that were absolutely fabulous. Not that everyone's weren't fabulous, but hers were extra fabulous. And so Jessica, Caroline, go ahead and message me with your address, and let me know what book you would like from our catalog, and I will arrange to have the paperback mailed to you. So very, very exciting. Very exciting. So Amy actually just picked up 2 books literally within 2 days of one of each other.
I did.
As editor. How are they going? What do you like about them? Whole 9 yards.
Yeah, so I really like books that have a clear point of view and also have a different take on things. So one is like an assassin lady, and it's like very exciting and sort of thriller type. So I'm excited to start that one. And the other one that I just picked up today it's kind of like Southern Gothic, which is right up my alley. I was very excited to see even the blurb to that one, and then I opened it and I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. So yeah, those are my 2 new projects. I just finished a sort of love story that's loosely based on characters in this lady's life and the author's life. It's really neat. It's like old Hollywood. She's a seamstress, and she kind of uses that metaphor to like weave together the stories and kind of sew them together, if you will. So lots of references to old Hollywood, which is neat, and then real life kind of people, at least people that you feel like you know by the time that you've read it. So yeah, lots of cool stuff over here.
Very nice. Jessica Vale says, and Jessica, I apologize if I'm completely botching your last name. She says, I'm low-key jealous. I've always wanted to be an editor or a literary agent. I love books so much. Jessica, IM me with your email address. We are always looking for more editors. What we basically do is just send out it's basically like a test. So we'll send you a sample manuscript, ask you your opinion. If it's something that, if you had the opportunity, would you pick it up? And if you had the opportunity to work with that author, how would you work with them? Oh, Valley. Excellent. Thank you, Jessica. Jessica Valley. Wow. Great name. Very cool. So just message me and we can get that party started. Absolutely. Peter, what are you working on again?
I'm not in a rut. I swear to God, I am not in a rut. I'm still working on Sheltering and still working on Madam President.
Nice.
So both are coming along, and I'm hoping for I'm going to send the first 100 pages. I'm going to take a page from Ben's playbook and send the author the first 100 pages to see if we're on the same page in terms of editing. I think we are, but we've got a couple hurdles to get over before I know exactly how his approach is going to be. But I've exchanged emails with him. He's very cool. He's very understanding. He's a great writer. So I'm hoping to see, some sort of progress going forward. And this way I send him 100 pages so I can work on the remaining 170 while he's working on the first 100. So thank you, Ben.
Nice.
I don't do that anymore.
No.
No, it's a good approach to make sure you're aligned. It really is, I think. Let me know.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. When it's more collaborative, I think you get a lot more out of it, So, well, I got let's see. I finished editing the short stories for the Cure anthology. We're still coming up with a name. We're doing like a collaborative approach. So I basically asked all the authors, if you could name it, what would you name it? And so we all voted on what our favorite title would be. So I think there were like two top twos or whatever. Anyway, so that now I'm working on 2 novella anthologies. I'm almost done one of them. The other one I haven't even started yet. There's like 11 novellas that I have to edit, which I believe I've lost my mind. It's like, really? You could like not pick every single one, but hey, if they're all kicking, why not? And then 2 novels that I have to edit. And then I actually wrote a proposal for a self-help book that's more based on like, this is the area of your life that you feel like you could use assistance. Here's an example of from me personally. This is what I did to kind of turn, or not kind of, but to turn things around and to have self-realizations. And this is what, you can do. And it sounds like people are really digging it. And so I just have some tweaks to make to the proposal, and we're going to start officially pitching it to different houses that are known for self-help, instead of us doing it and it getting absolutely no traction and no one ever seeing it, because we don't really do self-help books. Not for any reason other than, I don't know. It's funny, like in publishing, there are all these like little niche areas, and people tend to focus on a specific niche. So like I've had a couple times when someone's approached me about like they wrote a children's book or, something along those lines. And the reality is that there are very specific groups within retail who are really interested in that type of like genre or that form. And you need to know what they're looking for and what kind of pitch they're into and what's hot in that space. And if you don't walk in with that, then you're not going to be very effective minimally in pitching it, right? So, or proposing it rather to that house. So for certain things, I prefer just sort of recommending people go to someone who knows what they're talking about. Jessica Valley says, what about memoirs? Oh yeah, we do publish memoirs. We've actually had some named Best of the Year in the past, starred reviews. We've gotten, we've done pretty well in terms of acclaim when it comes to memoirs. So yeah, absolutely. If you do have a memoir or you do have a title that you're interested in passing by us, just go to our submittable page. Just go on submittable and then search on Running Wild Press or just Running Wild, and it'll come up and you'll see the different submission forms for short story anthology, novella anthology, and then it's basically long form. Because you submit both. You can submit both nonfiction and fiction through long form. But yeah, definitely. For us, for memoir, you need to have fully written it. Don't just send us like the table of contents and like sample chapters. I know some publishers will accept, a couple of sample chapters and then a table of contents, but we want the completed work, just as a FYI. Rod says, please don't laugh too hard. Don't want to hurt my feelings, right? But do you think I could take that editor test? Of course you can. Just send me email, message me privately, and then send me the email where you want the test to be sent, and we'll make it happen. We'll make sure you get to check it out.
But don't study for it.
Yeah, don't study for it. It's I mean, you could. I don't know.
You're gonna fail. If you study for it, you're gonna fail.
Wow, the optimist. Jessica Valley says, great info. I'm almost done with my memoir. It needs some fine tuning before I send it out for sure. Yeah, well, you're again more than welcome to send it our way. We'll definitely check it out. We just had an acquisition review session. When was it, guys? Like a month ago? Is that right?
The 29th, August 29th, I think. Oh,
wow. Yeah. So almost a month ago. And So we usually review submissions every, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. So it'll be a little while before we review full length submissions again. But so Jessica, you've got plenty of time from our perspective. Cool. Jessica Rod says, I can help with the way out of the box stories. Out of the box is kind of home to me. Out of the box is home to us too, man. So come on down. So I don't know if you guys have any, do you have any topics you want to bring up or anything you want to talk about?
Well, I was thinking, or go ahead, Ben.
No,
No,
go
no.
ahead. You go ahead.
All right. I was just thinking about reflecting on my time in Colorado and the mountains that I saw there and the different topography. And it just struck me that while you're writing a book or even a short story, writing a novel, you want to keep the big picture in mind. You want to see what's going on, draw the world, create the world so that it's always part of the backdrop. So you're referencing it and including it in the action, or you're still paying attention to the minute details that is story, the step-by-step of the story. I just thought that illusion, that comparison really fit my writing, because sometimes I forget to keep the big picture in mind, or I'm concentrating too much on details or too much on dialogue and leaving out some important elements of the story. So I found that very interesting and something I'm going to use going forward.
Ah, cool. Ben, what were you going to say?
Oh, just a situation I came across this week. I had sent a short story author the feedback in Google Docs and made the suggestions, the line edits, but I also suggested that the story had started somewhere else than where he started it. He had too much background. And he emailed me and agreed, but he sent me a PDF with the changes. And of course, PDF, I can't edit it. And so if just the lesson learned is, if you're not comfortable with Google Docs, just let me know or let the editor know. You can always go through Word and do it, back and forth. It's not as real time as Google Docs, but it'll still capture your edits and your changes that you can work with. And he said, great idea to start it somewhere else. Here's a PDF. Thanks. So I'm not sure he went into Google Docs at all, but so we're lesson learned and we're working that out.
I had one author who set up time with me for one of the for the Cure short story anthology, and I didn't actually have a lot of edits, and so he couldn't believe it, and so he set up the time because he was like, okay, all right. So what are we gonna, what do you want me to, like, he thought I was gonna do like these massive overhaul. And I was like, no, you had fun. Like, I'm good. Just made sure everything's consistent and, and he was just absolutely amazed. Which to me is kind of fun, because it's funny. It's that like imposter syndrome that I think we all tend to suffer from at times, where it's like, what do you mean, you're not going to rip me apart? Of course you're going to rip me apart. That's how this works. Okay, get to it, And I was like, no, you're good, man. Don't worry about it. And then everyone who submitted to the Cure anthology, what we've been doing too is brainstorming, like, are there other collections that we could do in the same world, like, or that like we could author, like that kind of thing. So it should be, don't be surprised if we come up with some ideas and we invite others to join us in our little explorations. So very, very fun. I did have one thing that came up in the last couple of weeks that I personally want to talk about, just because, So we had someone on our team who was going through a really bad depression, And I don't know if anyone's experienced this kind of depression before, but it's the kind where like you have a hard time responding to people because you know, it's almost like you can barely get out of a corner, you know, kind of thing. And unfortunately, we had a couple of authors who took it personally and decided that this was like some conspiracy. And you know, obviously, she's whatever. And instead of like reaching out to me and asking, like, is this person okay? They reached out to me with, let's just say, rather long and accusatory emails that were like, you know, I can never work with this person again, you know, and you could like hear the finger snap, you know, in the message. And, you know, honestly, I was really saddened by that. And, you know, I said, hey, because at the time I didn't know, we'll change that. At the time when I got these emails, our team member had just come to me, I mean, literally within the week, and let me know that she had been going through this severe depression. And she was like, you know, if you want to fire me, I understand. And I was like, wait, that's not how this works. Like, we're human beings. We all go through periods. We're not here to tell you to suck it, right? We're here to support one another, right? I mean, I don't know. That's just how I think. And anyway, so a couple of authors were like, you know, I can never work with this person again, and like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. So I explained, like, I understand. I'm happy to reassign you. Just so you know, this is what happened. This is what went down. I'm working with her now. I didn't know that was what was happening at the time, right? But now, you know, whatever. And in some cases, the authors came back and said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, thank you for reassigning me, and thank you for, you know, helping her. And in a couple of other cases, the authors terminated our contract because they said, you guys, like, basically, you don't know what you're doing, and how dare you, and I can't work this way. You know, again, like, you could hear the foot stomping out the door, right? And I kind of want to take like 1,000 steps back, because if this was if we were a large corporation, right? If we were a university, we would never kick someone out who is going through a personal trauma. Like, that's just not humanitarian. And I was just really, really saddened that there was such a lack of empathy and such a lack of even a desire to understand and help someone else. I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think about like situations like that, because I know we've all been there in some way. I don't know, Ben. What do you think?
I think it comes down to understanding that it's not a subject-object relationship between the author and the editor. It's subject-subject, and when you have that, it's called second-person perspective, where you understand that there are two subjects in the relationship. You transcend above it, and you see that, yeah, there's things going on that I can't treat objectively. I can't treat you like an object because you don't respond to an email, or I can't treat you like an object because you send me a PDF instead of a Google Doc. So you've got to understand that it's two people, and it goes back to your humanitarian point. People are complex, and if you treat it like it's simple, you're going to be wrong. It's just not the right approach to try to objectify some other person or what they're going through. And say that's, well, you're just you're a light, you're a lamppost, and I need you to come on when it gets dark. No, I'm not coming on. Sometimes I'm not going to come on, and it's got to be understood. I think the people are complex.
Peter, how about you? What do you think?
I agree wholeheartedly with Ben. I've had some issues with authors in the past that have been worked out on one hand and have been destroyed the relationship on the other hand. And I just think that authors need to understand that there are, like Ben was saying, there are two people in a relationship. Editor brings something, the author brings something, and together the two must join and work together. Because if it's one person, if it's just me, why did they submit the manuscript in the first place? Why didn't they just go to a vanity press and get it printed off as is? I mean, I don't think we blackball people, but at the same time, it's like, don't act like you're this prima donna who's, if you've never been published before, or you're just not used to working with an editor who's professional enough to give you proper feedback. You know, it's kind of how I look at it.
How about you, Amy? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as writers and editors, we approach story as this human quality. You know, for us, it's just like breathing. So it's surprising that maybe the humanity wasn't considered, because that's what it's about. Even in the editing process, you know, our goal is to work alongside the author and almost like guide them, hold their hand through the process, and just make the manuscript what it can be, right? So yeah, it's very sad. But also I hope on the flip side, people can see that, like, and be reassured that that is our purpose, is to bring out the humanity in the work and to help you guys through that process. It's not like, Lisa, you're saying, it's not us getting on a Zoom and saying you are terrible and this all needs changed. It's, you know, it's a human being, you know, that's who we are. We're humans who have our own stories. So I don't know, it's very sad, but then maybe reassuring to some people that we are humans who really want to hold that humanity. That is important.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of you. I mean, because I think we all just need to, you know, when we're in situations like this where something's occurring that we don't understand or we can't explain, is just taking the time to take a few steps back and say, okay, what might be going on that I don't understand, right? And then how can I help in this situation so that, you know, everyone can come out in of benefit, right? You know, the purpose of this is we're not pitting each other against, we're not pitting one another against each other. We're not here, you know, to say, oh, you're so much better than this person or what have you. We're all here. And Jessica Valley says it truly takes a village. It absolutely, it 100%, it takes a village. And the more that we treat things that way, I think the more successful we all become.
I agree. I think that sometimes it's missed that we're putting our passion, our talent, and our training to work to make their words better. We're staying true to their story, their voice, their everything. So it's like they are the people that we're hoping to make better. So to turn around and give grief or give attitude is just the wrong thing to do.
I like Amy's point about it being about the story, and when you think about shared human experience, it comes across in the stories we share, the stories we listen to, and it doesn't matter if you grew up in Monticello, Kentucky, or Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's if you have an ear for the stories, you have an ear for shared human experience. And whether it's written or oral traditions or however you get to hear the stories, it's still a shared human experience. And as an editor working with an author, if you help them find that voice that's the strongest it can be, then the shared human experience is stronger than it was as you find out how to share the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Rod says, I was so deflated. I quit writing for months. And, you know, it's funny. I think we all go through periods like that where you just kind of say, I need a break of some sort, you know, and that's understandable. But Caroline says, sadly, that is life. Sometimes That's what happens in the wide world. Most of us don't feel that way and would never not understand. People are complex, as Ben said. And sometimes, even though you would think that this would never happen in our profession, we are still made up of individuals, and some are just not understanding. Rod says, if you liked her enough to hire her, that's enough for me. I'd be honored to work with her. To the authors, I can connect them to editors who will destroy them. They can be condescending, cruel, and mean editors. You know, it's funny. I feel like we all really, really, really go out of our way that when we acquire a story that has a lot of potential, but it needs a lot of work, not to be condescending and cruel, right? I know at least when I'm meeting with an author who I'm working with, that it clearly needs a lot of work. You know, I go out of my way to say, all right, let's sit down and talk. Because I want to understand, what's your intent? What are you trying to accomplish through this? And a lot of times in that conversation is when they realize what it is they're trying to do. And then it's like, oh my God, this is so not serving what my intention was. You know, let me go back and work on that, you know, and then come back with something. It's surprising the number of authors who are very, very open to have that conversation. What do you guys think?
I'll tie back into Peter's revelation in Colorado when he was talking about the details and getting lost in the details and forgetting the progress of the story. As an editor, we see those places. We may not put it in Peter's words, of course, but it is a situation where the writing loses energy and starts to spiral down and loses its energy and its direction, like Peter was describing. So we add that the writer has to have that third eye to watch and avoid it, but we provide another external eye to help point to those places. And if the author's being honest, they know. They know. And yeah, I got lost in that scene, or I got lost in that location that has nothing to do, but I liked it. And so it's fun. Yeah, it's a fun place to be. But you pull them back and you point out, well, what value does it add to the story? And it could even be great writing, and so this is super writing, and it's just not. It doesn't fit in this story. You know, pull it out, extract it, and work on it in another piece. That's your energy for some other piece. And I think that's just the eye that the editor brings to bring the energy back to the direction it needs to be.
And I want to piggyback on that for a second, and then I'm going to ask Amy her thoughts. When you're editing something, that doesn't mean you throw it out. That means that you cut it out, you paste it into a side document so that you can then potentially leverage it in the future. Just because it doesn't fit in this piece, it doesn't mean that it can't be the beginnings of something else that's brilliant. So, Amy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the most successful projects that I've worked on have been with writers who are open to trying things. If we see a spot that's oh, this scene is a little slow, or hey, this character doesn't really change that much in the end. It feels like it wants to go this way, but maybe it just doesn't get there. And just asking those questions and sitting with them and maybe not knowing how to fix them as the writer, but just trying things. And like you're saying, you can always go back to the old version if you hate whatever you come up with. But yeah, I think the most successful authors are unafraid to just ask questions, make changes. They can always go back, but just that kind of following the art as it goes. I think that is also fun as a writer, and it's fun to see as an editor, have an author go through that process. So yeah, that's what I think about it.
Well said. Peter, what are your thoughts?
Well, no matter how how many times you comb through your manuscript, how many times you pour through it, try to catch every word, catch every nuance, every image, you're going to miss stuff because the story is in your head. So you're hearing the story in your head while you're reading the story on the paper or on the screen. So we bring this extra eye, as has been said, that shows, well, you're missing this here, or this isn't quite clear here. Let's add a little bit here. Let's take a little bit away from that because the author is just too close to the story. I mean, that's just a given. It's supposed to be that way. So we give a little bit of neutral observation that, and I stress this with every one of the authors I work with. It's still your voice. It's still your story. You can reject every comment I make. You can turn it on every suggestion I make. It's your story. But there's a reason why I'm making them. There's a reason why I'm pointing it out. That, I think this could be even cleaner. I think this could be even more poignant. This could be even more powerful. So I think that the author needs to keep that in mind. But again, it's their story. So if they want to, well, if they don't want to listen, then they don't have to listen. But what we deliver is valuable, and I think it's worth listening to, worth heeding it to a degree. And just to sidetrack on that, with the comment you made, I once did a lecture on image, and I think called Image Heaven, where I took the phrase "kill your darlings," but you don't have to kill them and delete them. Just kill them, put them in Image Heaven, so that you can use them for a future story down the line.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's funny. I attended, so Jonathan Mayberry teaches these workshops on weekends, and he just did one on short stories. And that was one of his points, was a lot of the short stories he's written, or, pieces that he's taken out from one section and put aside, they originated because he went off on a tangent in something and realized, ooh, this doesn't belong here, cut it out, put it elsewhere. And then later on went, hey, you know what? I need something kind of like a whatever, and pulled it from there. You don't have to kill, to your point, you don't have to literally kill your darlings, right? You just say, hey, it's a darling. I'm just going to put it aside for a little while. I'll use it elsewhere. So.
Well, it's kind of the writing prompt that you give to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Jessica Valley says, passions and dreams are hard because we live in a society that almost forces us to burn the candle at both ends in order to survive and follow those dreams. You've got the daily 9-to-5 grind, and then the staying up all hours following those passions. Burnout is so common these days. Yes.
I agree.
I think you have to force yourself. I mean, it used to be, you'd force yourself to go and take piano lessons or whatever. Now you force yourself to take a night off and go to the movies, or just, chill out somewhere. That me time, or even just allowing yourself to space out for a while. That is so rejuvenating, whether we realize it consciously or not. And it's so necessary, but we really need to give ourselves that time. So, Broad says, my work in progress novel currently has 110 scenes. It is very easy to get lost. All writers need a good editor. Yes. Caroline says, writing is a process, and most authors know that. That's why editors have always been necessary. I would think most authors should know that. Sadly, some don't. I'd say it's not frequent. Every once in a while, we get a submission that it's clear the author, this is probably the first round, maybe the second round, and it really does need work, and the author isn't necessarily emotionally there yet. But that's not frequent. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's start with Amy.
Yeah, I think most of the authors that I have worked with have been, I would say, appreciative of any kind of questions or comments. And it's really weird because it depends on the author. Sometimes my comments are very they want to know, X, Y, and Z, what to fix, and they, real quick. And then other ones are like, oh, I've been thinking about this scene, and I don't, it's more of a conversation, right? So yeah, it just depends on the author, but I feel like by the time that they get to us, they're excited and they're ready to work, and so are we.
Awesome. What do you think, Peter?
I think I need a minute to qualify my thoughts. Ben, what do you got to say?
I'm qualifying my thoughts. That's not right. I think it's a matter of knowing that. Well, and it comes back to all of us are authors. We've been there. We know we're going to take your work and edit it like a reader, and as like Peter was saying a few minutes ago, it is your work. It'll always be your work. It's your work, but I'm your audience. Mm-hmm. How do you want your work to impact your audience? And I can help you with that, and I'll help you send those characters to character heaven. That's cool. I had it was a personal experience, and that made me connect the editor process and the author process that we know because we've been there. In Triggerfish 1-2, the work I had, there was a character called Scarecrow Angel, and the person that was editing it said, you don't need Scarecrow Angel here. There's too many other characters coming in and visiting Triggerfish. And it was some of the best advice I had, because Scarecrow Angel went and had his own story and came down to talk to somebody else, but you can just envision Scarecrow Angel. You can't kill Scarecrow Angel. You've got to put him in some other work somewhere. But it's and that kind of advice is author to author, editor to author, the network through the network of creative to creative, and it should generate additional ideas for you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Am I allowed to pick on you? Okay, good.
What?
Am I allowed to pick on you now? Yeah, you agree. I'm sorry. Keep going, Peter.
To piggyback on Ben's thought is that the way we approach it, the way I approach it, is it's not this doesn't make sense to me. It's you lost us. We don't see the action. We don't get what's going on because we are not the first reader, but the first reader with editorial capabilities that can help shape the story. So it's not personal. It's never personal. We need to take one of the best things I learned was to take the manuscript that you've written, put it to the side, put your ego on the other side, and let the manuscript be critiqued. Let it be critiqued, let it be criticized, let it be complimented, everything that could possibly happen to it, because that's not you. The manuscript is not you. So the more you can put it aside, the more you can put it away from yourself, the better off you'll be. Make it be neutral. Make yourself be neutral about it. So. And
sometimes editors don't get it. Like it's true. Right. I mean, and I've known more I've known more authors who went to work with a relatively new editor who maybe wasn't as experienced in terms of craft. And when they tried to work with that editor, the editor was so new that they didn't understand, in my opinion, they didn't understand what their role was, right? Their role wasn't to sit there and say, line edit everything, I'm going to make you write the way I write, and unfortunately, there's a portion of the population within the writing world who subconsciously that's what they're doing, right? They're trying to force everyone that they're editing to basically have the same writing style that they have, instead of doing what we're all describing, which is, read it as if you're the reader, or you're the populace who's reading this, and realizing, hey, you know what, this is really good, and I think it could do more, but let me check with the author, like, what is it that they're trying to accomplish? Does what I'm seeing this as a potential, does this fit the story itself, right? And if it doesn't, then that's okay, right? Let me work with the editor on figuring out how do we make this phenomenal. So Rod says, in my 2 years as a writer, I've set a system all my work goes through before an editor sees it. Word editor, simple but catches the easy stuff. read it aloud, very useful, catch stuff, edit software. Oh, editing software won't catch. Hemingway editor, pro writing aid, beta readers. Only then does it go to an editor. Do you feel this is a good system? If you're happy with it, then sure. What do you guys think? Did that sound like a viable system, or what's your system? Out of curiosity.
My system is terrible. Don't follow mine. I basically write a novel, and that's when I figure out what it's actually about, and then I have to actually write that novel. So don't do that.
It's just time consuming, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you, man? What's your editing process?
It's well, for poems, I'll write it in a very rough draft. I will copy it over into a clean copy. It's still handwritten, and so that's one revision where it's in my head and it's flowing. That read aloud stuck out from Rod's post there, and then when it's when I get around to it, I'll type it up for the second revision and see how it looks on the page and what can change. So there's three types of editing there, but I'll relay once I found out in school that the instructor would allow second submissions.
Mm-hmm.
I always submitted first thought, best thought, and then let him change it. And then, okay, I'll say what he told me to say, and then it'll be fine. But which is a very lazy approach to having it edited, but it worked. It got me through school, and
you got a doctorate, so.
But it's I think Rod's way is a lot more formal than most, and very meticulous, more meticulous than most. Meticulous. Never heard that word sound like.
How about you, Peter?
I like some Rod's approach. I mean, it seems to me that that's a lot of different perspectives to give yourself while you're working on something. I don't know those from a personal standpoint, but again, any input that you can give yourself, whether electronic or personal or from a friend, your beta readers, is always valuable because they're going to see stuff, they're going to read stuff that you don't see and point stuff out. As far as process, if I could do this, my ideal process would be write out the first draft longhand. Just write out completely longhand, type it up into the computer for the second draft, print that sucker out, and read it aloud. Because that is the best way to get to the areas of my brain that make the most sense story-wise. Problem is I don't have the patience to write out an 80,000-word novel with a pen. But when I've done that, it's produced far better results than I have without using that process. So the more time you can take, the slower you can take it, sometimes benefits you because, well, it's like the different senses. You're seeing it on the page. You're seeing it. You're typing it into the computer. Then you're hearing it. So your brain is kind of contemplating it from a different direction entirely. Mm-hmm. So those are the things I like to do when I'm editing. I think that's a good approach for me.
Wow.
Again,
yeah, I have a totally different way of doing things for a short story versus long form. So short story, I usually come up with like the concept and the conflict. And I mean, because nowadays I have so many irons in the fire that I won't write a short story unless I know it's being submitted to something specific. So I'll write to that, whatever that is. And I'll like start the opening and then I'll know in my head like what the ending is. And then I basically write to the ending for, again, a short story. And then for a long form, I will know, I will figure out what that, like the universe is. And I'll usually write maybe the first 5 or 10 pages because that tells me the voice and that tells me the primary characters that I'm probably going to want to focus on. And then I'll write an outline. For me, an outline is like what the core, a couple of bullet points about what each chapter or segment, I guess you could say, is going to be about. And then, but the reality is, all that's doing is it's helping me figure out, because I like complex narratives, and I like narratives for me personally to write, and I like narratives that are it has multiple storylines occurring in parallel, typically during different periods of time or even in different worlds. So I write that out so I can figure out how those transitions are going to work and how these are going to interplay or how they're going to impact one another. And then as I'm writing it, I will realize, or I will adjust the narrative, the outline, to more so reflect what's actually hitting the page. And then once I'm done writing the full first draft, I'll put it aside for at least a day, and then I'll go back over it again, just so I can see, does this actually flow? What am I missing? Because I will go back along the way and flesh out things that I may have inadvertently missed, right? So to Peter's point early on, it's in your head, right? It doesn't mean it necessarily hit the page the first time you wrote it. So sometimes, you know, when you go back and you're rereading it, you realize, ooh, I missed a whole thing. Whoops, time to start over. But because I give myself that day to just step away from it, it enables me to have a fresher eye or fresher voice when I go over it again. And I can flag all the things that I need to change and update and so on. And then I usually do give it to some readers as well as my editor to get their take. So,
yeah, Lisa, I think that's really important too. Is like, you know, we're not really looking at, you know, do you have the periods in all the right places and things, you know, grammatically correct? We're really looking at story. Of course, to follow it, it should be readable, but yeah, we're looking at your character, your plot. We're looking, is it a good story? Did it get something inside of me? You know, those I think are more important than all the grammar things. Yeah, it's that process and getting to know the character and their story.
Not that we don't fix the grammatical errors.
We do fix all, yes, but you as the author, I think the priority would be is, you know, all those holes, like you were saying, and the things that you need to go back and change and, you know, to make it flow. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, your comment about putting the manuscript aside for a day is very valuable. Sometimes some authors put it aside for a week or a month or 2 months, let it ferment, let it sit, and then go back to it as a fresh manuscript.
Yeah, absolutely. Caroline says, so do tell. Wondering what each of you are now doing that summer vacations are over and everybody is settling down to work. Let's start with Ben. I haven't picked on you lately.
Summer's over already? When did it start? It's just a continuation of well, the editing work, of course, but for my own work, I'm afraid I'm up to 12 collections that need to be typed up, and typing up my work is one of my least favorite things, but it's there waiting. It's that manuscript put away for, well, okay, Peter, months. How about a couple of years? That's waiting for me to get back to it. And to Peter's point, it is a chance to look at it fresh again and put more energy into it. I keep talking about energy, but so that's what I'm settling down to do, is to add energy to my surroundings.
All right, Peter, what about you?
Now that summer's over, I am forcing myself to make more time to practice my art, to do my writing, to do my editing on my stuff, as well as the stuff I do for Running Wild. It's just a priority now to make the time. If you got 5 minutes, I'll use it. If I got 10 minutes, I'll use it, as opposed to just surfing around and doing silly stuff, on your phone while you got a break from work. No, it's like I have to focus. That's my promise to myself, is I have to focus, because I've got 3 books to edit plus mine are finished. So it's like I do have the work. I have stuff to do. So my plan is to make the time and make the most out of my time.
Nice. How about you, Amy?
I am busy with kids' schedules pretty much every single day, minus Sundays. That's the only the only day we don't have anything. But yeah, other than that, I picked up the 2 projects that I'm editing, and then I also started outlining a new project of my own. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
Nice. And actually, last night I just had a strat planning meeting with our amazing leadership team, and with we have an advisory board of just people who are absolutely phenomenal across various industries. And we came up with a game plan where, and some of you may have seen this on LinkedIn, we actually posted 2 jobs, which are really more than 2 jobs. One of them is a marketing lead, and one of them is for a licensing lead. And the intent is that those roles will come on board. They'll be assigned a couple of books that are coming up, and the marketing lead will come up with a strategic marketing plan and work with the authors in executing those plans. And they'll tell us, how many books they want to work on. And then the licensing lead, same thing, right? They'll come on board and will work with us on, we already have a lot of materials that are basically like pitch materials for the books to possibly be licensed out. And we're just going to more so formalize these roles. And so it also will enable our current head of marketing and head of licensing to focus on more of what I call the operational activities, so that, there can be a greater focus and a greater intent with those per title or per story activities. So very excited about that. Very excited to talk to a lot of these guys. I mean, holy moly, we got it was like 150 resumes in less than 24 hours. That blew my mind. But I'm just really thankful. People just sounded really excited to come and talk to us. So really, really looking forward to that. I have 2 novels I still need to edit, 2 novella anthologies I need to finish editing. And I actually need to decide on whether I'm going to, and I have a sneaking suspicion Ben is going to have an influence on this, whether I am going to move forward and just dive into the 3rd book in the world of Cure, or if I continue forward with editing more novels. But I did get a killer round trip tickets for like $220 to Hawaii. So guess where Cure is going to be set? Or at least part of it in the third book. So, and I just think I want to have fun with that move. I want to keep writing the books in worlds or in countries that I get to visit, so that the reader gets to experience that alongside. So let's see. Rod says, I said I'm way outside the box. I get an idea, walking to the coffee pot, sit on a computer, let the story run, and I just try to type fast enough to keep up. Amen. Caroline says, these are editors that can't write, but probably want to. Unfortunately, they are few and far between. Oh, the ones who are not very nice. Yeah. Well, I'll leave that alone. And holy moly, with that, we've got less than a minute left. I want to thank Amy, Peter, Ben. You guys, as always, are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to Caroline, to Rod, to Jessica, to everyone who has been watching, to Cree. If you guys are watching and it is not Thursday between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern, please just go ahead, pop your questions into the chat. We check during the week. We will be more than happy to respond. And don't forget, we do award the book of whatever the person chooses to the most intriguing question that we received. So Caroline, I don't know if you heard it, but Love Bug, you won. So message me, let me know what paperback you want, and I will make sure that you receive it. And with that, I'm wishing everybody an absolutely phenomenal week. Ciao.